Hello and welcome. Today we are going to discuss 4 types of rendering. They are not necessarily the only types of rendering because I divided them by my past experience. So let's dive in. First type we are going to discuss is manual rendering. So it's basically opening the 3ds Max scene, setting up scene for render and pressing render and then waiting. We will just do that. We open 3ds Max scene. We are going to make sure that we have save output. So we will and just press render. Now we wait. While we are waiting, I will go and grab some Greek carob tea or something. Let's say that now our render is complete. I have to render another cameras also. So go to a next camera, set up scene for render and then press render. So I will just repeat. I will go to another camera and I will press render. And it's like rendering in series. So this is the full picture of this type of rendering and it goes on and on from here. As much rendering cameras or scenes do you have. So pros and cons. It's super easy, it's very straightforward, but it's very time consuming and you will have to manage everything manually, from opening the scenes to switching to the cameras and so on. Now let's go to the next type is distributed rendering. It's a little bit complex because you must make sure that all PCs have the same software setup. For example, you cannot do distributed rendering with 2 PCs on Corona render if one doesn't have Corona render or one doesn't have Anima and one has Anima. So we must make sure to have this checked. Next, we must make sure that all PCs are on the same network. This means that PCs will be able to communicate with each other. If you need any tutorials or if you have any questions regarding this step, please write down in the comments or write us on the support mail. And the last step that we must make sure is that all 3ds Max scene assets are visible to all PCs. There are a few ways to do that, but I personally prefer to have one shared folder across the network all PCs can access. Now let's get back to work. So steps here are a little bit similar. We are opening 3ds Max scene, we are setting up scene for render, and before we press the render, it's better to set up DR spawner, distributed rendering spawner on other PC. For example, now we will go on the other PC in our network and we must go in program files, Corona renderer for 3ds Max and DR server. We must push run as administrator. And then if you have a few 3ds Max versions installed, you will see them here. Currently we have 2024 and we must push here, run the selected version of 3ds Max. We can view also logs here. Now we must go back to our main computer and we must enable distributed rendering from render setup, system. And here we must enable it here and search for LAN, and distributed rendering spawner should be here, and then we'll push render. And one thing I forgot to mention, when you're using distributed rendering, you should go to DR tab here and you should see updates coming from another PC here. For example, this PC has done 8 passes and here you should see as much PCs as much you will connect to distributed rendering. So we pressed render and it was rendering with distributed rendering, but we were still waiting. We were still waiting like we were waiting on the first render. But with the power of distributed rendering, we are waiting a little bit less, but cycle is the same. We switch to next scene and we press render and it goes on and on. Now let's take a look at pros and cons. It's much faster rendering than with one PC and it's the fastest way to render a single heavy image because you can distribute one render across multiple PCs and you will have increase in performance on one render. But it's time consuming, a little bit less than previous, and you still need manual management. And troubleshooting is harder if you don't understand how a local network works. If you have questions regarding this step or how set up from scratch distributed rendering, you can write down in the comments. Now let's go to the next. Batch rendering. It's the first automated workflow we are reviewing today. So now we are opening 3ds Max scene and we must set up it differently now. Go to rendering and batch render, and here we must add views. First view will be camera 12. Second view will be camera 13. And we can override here presets of the rendering settings, and we should also set up output path differently. Yeah, this is view 1. This is view 2. And besides that, you can also specify scene state. We must push here to start batch rendering. It should render 2 views. As you have seen, batch rendering finished, and we have 2 images rendered. But in case I want to render another scene from another file, batch rendering will not work for me. Let's review our workflow. We set up scene for few renders and we pressed batch rendering. We waited, but for another 3ds Max scene, I will need to open another 3ds Max file and go through these steps again. It's at least an automation on one file basis, and it's a little less time consuming, but we still require to manually open new scenes to render. Now let's go to the next. Next is automated render management with CoreFinder. Do you remember these steps from distributed rendering step? We still require these steps. Go once again. We must make sure that all PCs have same software setup. You cannot have different kind of plugins on different kind of computers and expect the same result. Make sure that all PCs are on the same network. If you have any questions regarding this step, you can write down in the comment. And we must make sure that 3ds Max scene assets are visible for all PCs. That means that the folder where assets are collected can be accessed from all PCs in the network. Now we will go through these steps. We will open 3ds Max scene and we will set up scene for render and deploy on CoreFinder. In difference with the previous render types, we are not waiting, we are just deploying and deploying and deploying. And let's go to the 3ds Max. I'll just push our button here, and if I have everything set up correctly, I'll just press here save to CoreFinder. This saved task, when it saves, should appear here. As I said, it appeared, and now I can save another scene. And besides that, I can also open another 3ds Max scene and save another. And just like that, I saved 3 scenes from 2 different files. Now I just want to make sure that every PC is running. For now, PCs are connected to network, but they are stopped. I will just get them running. And you should see that these PCs are now taking these rendering tasks and starting to render. And just like that, we have rendered 3 renders in parallel, simultaneously. We are not waiting, we are just deploying and deploying tasks on CoreFinder. And you can then go and do whatever you want while CoreFinder will handle the rendering. It is fully automated, super easy to use, and is the fastest way to render a bunch of images and animations. And about cons, you tell us. You go and try and tell us what's wrong, and we will improve it. And now little disclaimer. Current version is beta version. That means that it might have some bugs, but if you will report them and tell us what's wrong, we are every day improving and updating our software. So, see you soon.